Hi everyone, my name is Tze Kang, the expert tutor of Advanced Performance Management. This video will be discussing a topic in the syllabus, Beyond Budgeting. The discussion of Beyond Budgeting will be made referenced to the official website in the ACCA, and that includes Study Hub from Chapter 4, especially Section 4.3. It followed by technical article, which is found by keying in the following link in your internet for searching. Finally, a series of past examinations questions that found in practice platform are highly recommended to all the students in giving a try after watching the video on the topic. To understand what exactly Beyond Budgeting is all about, it will be mainly starting off by understanding some history from the past. And then it shows the transformation and evolutionary change on the market environments that highlighting what has changed. Let's start looking at the history. Try imagine. Traditionally, looking at the following diagram, it indicates the traditional business environment where any organizations would exist under. In the traditional business or market environment, it is mainly featured by less technologically advanced. And as such, the changes in the market are at much slower pace at a point of time. And due to that, the number of players in the market would evolve and increase at a very slow pace, and that gives rise to less market competition. With limited choices, the expectations among the consumer and customers are naturally lower. With all the above key features, that give rise to a pretty long product life cycles of all industry that denoted from the following diagram that you must have learned in some of the basic chapters in APM. Over the period of time, when a new product is emerged in the market until the point it disappeared from the market, it demonstrates a long period of time that such product would carry demands over the periods of time that denoted by the following diagrams on the sales. And that is obviously a product life cycle that carry 4 different stages from different point of time. With such traditional business environment, one would wonder how would exactly an organization exist and operate in such environment. Knowing that at the early stage of the market, most organizations are of limited in size and scales. And that not only includes the profit organization, that is more commonly termed as private sectors, it also includes many of the non-profit organizations. In this video, the discussion will be mainly focusing on the former, namely the private sectors. Try imagine and recap one of the models that have learned in the syllabus of APM, the 7S model of McKinsey. The formation of the 7S model will directly relating and influencing one of the key management activities of many organizations, particularly in the private sectors, namely planning, or more commonly, it is referred as budgeting, if such activity took place at the operational level. In the past, the traditional planning exercise, or it is called traditional budgeting exercise, in a private sector will mainly carry the following features. They are top-down approach. It is more of a reflection of command and controlled most of the times, given the main authority who set the target in the budget are mainly from the superior. The traditional budgeting exercise was pretty much focusing on internal matters with very little considerations made on the market environment. Not only that, traditional planning and budgeting exercise were pretty much based upon what took place in the past as the basis to form and formulate the budget in the future, and that is said to be backward focus. Last but not least, traditional budgeting were pretty much focusing into financial related information. With all the above key features of traditional planning and budgeting exercises, here are the typical traditional roles played and served by budgeting exercises. Guys, these are the keywords which is not new to all of us. Traditional budgeting used to play the role as one of the key planning tools. It also served, as mentioned earlier, as a means of control and authorizations to delegate with the power and responsibility to different group of operational team members. With the application of variances analysis that's supported by budgeting, that seems to be one of the common use performance measurement mechanisms. Not to mention further, budget in the past served as a source and the means of motivating the staff member to achieve the budget, as well as to serve as the means to coordinate and communicate among operational team members. These are the typical roles that carry by the traditional budgeting exercises. With all the current understanding and the features that explains under the traditional market environment and organizations that exist in the past. Guys, try imagine what has happened now and even in the future. What has actually been changed? Here are the second episodes of the discussion. Let's take a look at some of the modern development in the perspective of market environment, and then followed by what's changed in the modern organization, in particular businesses. Let's keep an eye on modern business environment, whereby it is, as opposed to less technological advanced, it is now highly technologically advanced, with especially the emergence, the development of advanced technology that's including artificial intelligence, big data, so on and so forth. With all these changes in technology, that directly give rise to the pace of the change in the market to be even more rapid and drastic. With that, it will make the barrier of entry into any industry become much lower than ever. And these directly give rise to the increasing number of players in the market. That gives rise to a very competitive market at this modern era. With more choices and alternatives, that is especially common to expect among all the consumers and customers to have higher expectations. With all the above new features, what do you expect the product life cycle of most products will become? And the answer, obviously, the product life cycles of most industry will become much shorter than ever, which denoted from the following diagram. Over the periods of time, the periods where the products would carry a demand in the market would be much shorter than before, despite the fact during such a short period of time, the extent of the boom in the demand is much higher as well as comparing to the past. Well, these are the main features that describing most of the business environment that appear in many parts of the world. Guys, try to spend a couple of minutes to think about if a business organizations are still trying to adopt the traditional budgeting exercise and operate in such dramatically different business environment. Do you think the traditional management tool would still be able to support the business organizations to do well and achieving series of objectives effectively? And the answer obviously is doubtful, because with the mismatch of different external environment, as well as the key features of traditional budgeting that no longer depict and illustrate a well performance on new ranges of critical success factor, what will happen among the staff member if the business's organizations are still relying on the traditional budgeting tools? Here are the answers. Ranges of behavioral issues will be expected, such as myopia, tunnel vision, gaming behaviors may and could have appeared likely in a new business environment where the existing budgeting models or exercises may fail to fit well into the modern market. However, among the staff member to seek for survival, to secure the job position, these explain the emergence of not mentioned all, but the following common type of behavioral matters. Guys, with such a mismatch, they should be common to expect there could be some changes that happen in a business organization. So obviously, what would have changed? And again, it goes back to the 7S fundamental. And particularly, we are putting the focus discussing about the change on the planning and budgeting exercise. And of course, beyond and not merely focusing on budgeting, what other performance management efforts and initiatives could also be introduced? And here are some key changes. As comparing to the traditional feature of top-down approach, which depict command and control mechanism, which believe it may not be able to work well in a modern environment, a bottom-up approach of planning and performance management, which seems to be much more appropriate. As comparing to internal, a much more externally focused approach in planning, allowing the management to better understand, to be better alert the changes in the external environment, will be much more appropriate in a modern environment. As opposed to backward focus, a forward focus approach, allowing the businesses and the management to keep an eye, anticipating what are the expected changes in preparing what they have to move forwards, will be much more appropriate at this moment of time. Last but not least, instead of keeping the focus narrowly on merely just financial, it should expand and broaden the horizon to consider ranges of integrated and holistic dimension of performances and achievement. Guys, with all these new dimension and perception on formulating the plan for the businesses and designing performance management, these changes in the feature is not only affecting just planning, it also would affect virtually the entire 7 S's as indicated from the McKinsey model. What does it indicate? These changes will therefore come alongside with all the changes in the 7 components of S's. Do you think such change is an easy and straightforward job? Unfortunately, it is not. It is indeed an extremely challenging mission, and these will therefore explain any changes, including planning and budgeting exercises, never come easy and smooth. So, what's the solution? To have an alternative way of planning, an alternative way of managing the performances that carry the above and key features, which is greatly different comparing to the past. Here is the answer, created and discovered by 2 gentlemen, Hope and Fraser. The two gentlemen has indicated the need to adopt different ways of doing things and managing businesses. That's including getting a higher level of involvement from the staff by empowering the staff member with the right of decision making. And obviously, that comes alongside with a higher level of accountability and responsibilities to be held by the staff member. These changes would then come alongside with the emphasis on externally focused, as discussed earlier. And one of the examples is to embed and introduce benchmarking exercise, which is externally focused. One of the key examples and a common used type of benchmarking, namely competitive benchmarking, which allowing the business player to continuously improving the business organization's performance by continuously comparing the actual achievement with the player, with the competitor out there. This is opposed to a traditional budgeting exercises that merely comparing the actual result with internally set target, which is budget. Here, budget is no longer served as the ideal target. It is the achievement. It is the actual performance of the competitor in the similar periods of time that we should use as the target to compare with the actual performance of the own business organization's achievement. With this comparison that is much more relevant and realistic, that allow the business organizations to keep an eye on where we stand comparing to other players at any point of time. Apart from the above, a series of alternative planning tools will be introduced that allowing the staff member and management team to embed with a new perceptions on externally focused and forward focuses. Alternative budgeting systems and models that were commonly introduced among modern business environments are rolling budgeting system, zero-based budgeting system, program planning budgeting system, last but not least, activity-based budgeting system. You should have spent time to get yourself familiarized with the mechanism of how each and every of this alternative budgeting system works and try to imagine how would these budgeting system demonstrate and carry the new features as discussed a while ago in this video. Last but not least, other than the introductions of alternative budgeting system and model as discussed, a great level of flexibility should be embedded in the performance management approaches nowadays. As what we have discussed earlier, the selection of the target are no longer based upon an internally set target, whereas it should be based upon a series of KPIs, the key performance indicators, that set in accordance with the current business environment. That will allow a more practical, a more meaningful comparisons of performances that directly will help to mimic and overcoming a series of behavioral issues that discussed in the earlier part of the video. Other than flexibility, it is common opportunities in the businesses will arise more frequent than ever to allow the business organizations to be able to respond promptly in taking advantage of this opportunity arising. Modern planning and modern performance management approaches should allow the management team to have the access to the resources, particularly financial resources, to have a great possibility to spend on the unplanned items that relating to opportunity arising out of expectation. This is again another evidences of demonstrating a high level of flexibility, of going beyond whatever that is already planned much earlier point of the time. And that's including the need to keep an eye on the long-term achievements among the management team. These emphasis on the long-term focus are clearly evidences in a new ranges of performance measurement approaches by no longer depending purely on variances analysis, but it is purely based upon ranges of KPI that is relating to ranges of prospective performances. To quote a few of the examples, you may try to imagine what the following model in performance management and measurement that have discussed in the other part of the syllabus of APM as the basis to imagine what kinds, what area of KPI that will be created as a form of the target for serving the purpose of performance measurement. Guys, with the new features and emphasis, don't you think these new features and emphasis will better prepare the management and the staff member to be more motivated and more ready to face the challenges in the modern business environment as discussed a while ago? So, what's the answer? What exactly is the approaches of planning and performance management that will be able to encompass the following key features as discussed a while ago? And as I've mentioned just now, the answer has found and given by Hope and Fraser with the introduction of a modern way of not only in focusing on planning and budgeting, more importantly, it is seen to be a way, an approach of managing the business organization's performance, namely beyond budgeting. These approach of performance management are including all the key characteristics as discussed earlier. And in these performance management approaches, it is no longer expecting the management team will purely and overly rely on budgeting as a way of planning and measuring or managing the performances. These approaches would require the application of alternative budgeting system as discussed above, together with some other approaches and techniques such as benchmarking, such as balance scorecard, in order to provide a more all-rounded and a comprehensive ways of managing the business's performances. That is where the word beyond the budgeting comes about. That it's all about the fundamental concept of beyond budgeting. Guys, it's the time for me to show you what exactly and how beyond budgeting would appear in one of the exam questions that found in the past examination. Here were one of the requirements that pertaining to these questions that appeared in the past exam. As part B required, the task on explaining the operation of beyond budgeting approach. And that is another task that comes in clearly, that asking the candidate to evaluate the potential of such change that took place in the organizations by the name of RL. In this part of the video, it is not the intentions for me to show you the full productions of the answer in full scale. Rather, this part of the video is mainly demonstrating the planning exercise to formulate the framework of the answers that you're supposed to produce in responding to these questions. Hence, I'm not spending the time to produce the full answer in the full scale, but it's rather to indicate to you what exactly is the content of your answer that need to get ready to respond the two tasks as identified. To answer the first task, it is pretty much straightforward, as the explanations of how beyond budgeting approach works were pretty much relating to the key features that we have discussed a while ago. So we're not going to touch too much looking into what exactly is the content of how beyond budgeting works. It is pretty much relating to what we have seen earlier. What I would like to show is it is the second task. How do you know, how do you evaluate the potential of such change in the performance management approach in RL? That require a high extensive application skills of the knowledge about beyond budgeting in conjunction with the story background and the scenario as given by the questions. Before you listen to the following part of the video, guys, I would suggest you to put a pause in this video. Spend some time to go through the full story of these questions as shown in this part, and then think about what are the key informations that you could be using in response to the task number 2. And here are some of the hints for you. Knowing the background of the business, RL, it's in the manufacturing line of laptop computers. And that tells you the market environment. Looking at the second paragraph, it indicates the history of the growth of the businesses. And it also tells you the strategy, the market positioning where the businesses is looking at. But at the same time, a very important message telling you the growing strength among the competitor. It's telling you the increasing challenging environment in the market for the businesses to do well as comparing to last time. And not only that, it tells you what are your key success factors in running these businesses. The next information that relate to the following task is to show you some background of the setup of the organization, such as we have some senior personnel who have been serving in the firm for long. That basically hints you the challenging task to implement any major changes, especially with the mindset and the perception. Any system that would bring in should ideally develop organically. That implies a high level of resistance among the staff member. And then the next issue is to highlight the fall in the profitability of the businesses in the recent year. With all these issues, here comes the major part of the paragraph that highlight what is all about on the change. One of the change that was mentioned and suggested in these questions is the control system that is relating to budget. In this paragraph, it tells you what is the current approach of budgeting. It also tells you what is the new CEO is trying to implement for the change to turn around the current situations that is going on. And obviously, the CEO is giving the sense of the worrying sign of how strong the competitor is moving towards, and then the resignation of 2 of our experienced managers in the firm. Guys, with all these clues that found in the last paragraph, don't you think that serves a very important hint to tell you what is the traditional environment and how does it mismatch the modern business? These explain the need to bring in a new ways of doing things, such as beyond budgeting. That will become the clue to form your answer plan. And of course, not to mention the need to highlight the potential challenges to implement and impose the change. I hope this video would show a clear picture and understanding on what beyond budgeting is and the applications of beyond budgeting in APM. Until then, take care.